Welcome to the No State Project channel. I'm Mark Stevens. It's been a while. Glad to do another video here because the way things are going, it's an old story. Rich people, powerful people, almost never held accountable whatsoever. Yeah, you occasionally there'll be a congressman or that will go to prison, but it's really, really rare. So I want to talk about a few cases where police officers are held accountable, but they're not rich and powerful. They work for the rich and powerful, but so they are sometimes held accountable. And also it's a minor conviction, but some rich douchebag that's actually been convicted. So very, very rich. So, but that will be the last one. So here is Larry Krasner, and the first story has to do with that. And I know it's a little bit old, but there was something in the news recently that reminded me, and I wanted to make sure that these stories were not forgotten because they're not really publicized that much, at least it's not as much as they should. So Larry Krasner has been the Philadelphia district attorney for a number of years now, and so I've mentioned him on the show before. I think the guy is great. He was a defense attorney that got tired of all the prosecutorial misconduct that was going on, got elected to be the district attorney there in Philadelphia. And within a couple of weeks, 30 career prosecutors were either fired or had resigned. So there was a cleaning house, and there were at least 9 people in the first year or two innocent people that they were able to exonerate. So his office, he's actually doing a good thing. So what happened was, that we see here, so what happened, recently, a former Philadelphia police officer is charged with murder in a 12-year-old's death. I know this is back in May. It's just one of those things that just doesn't seem to be widely reported. A cop actually being charged with murder. Former Philadelphia police officer Edsol Mendoza knew Thomas T.J. Siderio, 12, was unarmed when he shot him in the back and killed him. That's what Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner said as he announced murder charges against Mendoza on Monday. So police said that Siderio had fired at a car carrying 4 officers before running away. But Krasner said Mendoza, who chased Siderio on foot, knew the boy had thrown his weapon away before he shot him. Siderio was on the ground at the time. So it's pretty obvious, I think, with forensics to show if somebody was on the ground being shot, the angle of the bullets and all. Krasner said it's certain that Thomas Siderio, at the time he was shot, had stopped running and that he was possibly surrendering. It is certain that Thomas Siderio, at the time he was shot, was essentially face down on the sidewalk that was in a position that approximates sort of a push-up, turning back where the officer was pursuing him, perhaps turning back towards where the officer was pursuing him, perhaps turning to look at the officer who was pursuing him when he was shot through the back. So, yeah, police, too scared to go in and confront a shooter with an AR-15, but a child who's prone, yeah. It says Mendoza, who was fired soon. That's another thing, too. Cops typically are not fired. They get administrative paid leave. But here, Krasner's not pulling any punches. Mendoza, who was fired soon after the incident, is now in custody and being held without bail. Wow. Krasner said as he announced the murder charges. In addition to first-degree murder, he is charged with third-degree murder, voluntary manslaughter, and possession of an instrument of crime. Mendoza also made an untruthful statement about his location when he was chasing and firing at Siderio. The prosecutor said, adding that it suggests that the former officer knew what he had done was illegal. Oh, a police officer lying. Look, it's just like any other politician, any scumbag bureaucrat. If their lips are moving, they're lying. That's why it's so hard to believe someone like Larry Krasner, who's actually doing a good job. So this was really cool. So he hasn't been convicted. I don't think the trial started yet. It's still early in that it could take all year to actually get to trial if he doesn't just plead guilty, which would be sweet. Send him to prison as soon as possible. So in the second story about police officers being convicted, Thomas Lane, one of the three former Minneapolis police officers convicted in February of violating George Floyd's civil rights, was sentenced to 2.5 years in federal prison on Thursday. And this is being reported July 20th, just this week. Federal prosecutors had asked Judge Paul A. Magnuson in Minneapolis. That's not a surprise. To sentence Lane between 5.25 years to 6.5 years for his role in the fatal restraint of Floyd on a Minneapolis street in May 2020. Earl Grey? That's a real Earl Grey? Okay. Lane's attorney, Earl Grey, Lane's attorney, asked for a sentence of 2.25 years. Judge Magnuson said that Lane had a minimal role in the incident, adding that he's a person of outstanding character. He watched the man get murdered. I mean, this guy was on his neck for over 8 minutes. However, this is still pretty cool. A police officer going to prison. Yes, 2.5 years, really not enough, but still pretty good. Then we get to the rich douchebag. And this guy made a lot of money. He was actually pardoned. He was pardoned by Trump, of course, for crimes that he was convicted of. So Bannon was actually convicted of actually committing fraud against Trump supporters, where they collected millions of dollars to build a wall, which all went into his pocket. He was convicted of that, and Trump, of course, pardoned him. Why wouldn't a grifter? And so it's really great to see someone rich actually be convicted. Hopefully he's going to get at least some time in prison. But Steve Bannon found guilty on both contempt of Congress charges. There was 2 charges, one for not giving an oral interview at deposition and for not giving documents. So he was convicted this week. So hopefully it will result in at least 6 months of jail time. The defendant shows allegiance to Donald Trump over compliance with the law. I'm not a fan of U.S. attorneys, but I'm not a fan of rich douchebags getting away with committing crimes. I mean, you and I, regular people, we smoke a joint or just, have a joint in the car, and we run the risk of being shot. We're going and we're doing time, but defraud thousands of people out of millions of dollars on some scam about building a wall. Not even so, but he got pardoned. He was convicted, and he got pardoned for that. So hopefully, there's no one going to come to the rescue and pardon this guy, and they're not going to go easy. That he's going to get at least 6 months, because this rain of this torrent of criminal activity this kills me, because, like I said, regular people like you and I watching this video, right? We have a joint, the remnants of a joint in the car. We are going to do serious time for that. We're doing time. This guy can actually defraud people out of $250 million. So I have to put up $250 million where the so-called Stop the Steal, and they raised $250 million, and none of it went to the lawsuits and to pay for the lawsuits and to the so-called stop the election fraud. That is just the tip of the iceberg of the crimes, the absolute tsunami of crimes that this guy has committed. Just in the last 5-6 years, it's staggering to me how many crimes this guy has committed. Far more in excess of the insider trading that the typical congressman does, which is bad. It's unethical, it's immoral, and should be as illegal as the day is long. It should be at least as illegal as having the remnants of a joint in your car. This guy's crimes are so bad, and there's so many, that even a federal judge stated, this is in the Eastman order, based on the evidence, the court finds that it is more and again, you got to remember, this is a lawyer writing, it's a judge, he's writing it, he has to write it in this particular way. Based on the evidence, which is all through these 44 pages, the court finds that it is more likely than not that President Trump and Dr. Eastman dishonestly conspired to obstruct the joint session of Congress on January 6, 2021. That is a felony. And this is the order in the Eastman versus the Select Committee that came down back in, I guess it was back in the end of March of 2022, this year. A staggering amount of facts just here. But if you would look at the totality of all the criminal activity that we know of this man, I use man loosely, staggering. The idea, again, I'm going to keep going back to it. If I had the remnant of a joint in my car, I'm going to jail. This guy can defraud people out of $250 million. He's an unindicted co-conspirator. He's individual one. His own attorney, Michael Cohen, already went to prison for what he is accused of. So it's nice. Hopefully, we're going to see in my lifetime someone who is as rich and as powerful as a former president of the United States, where the evidence is so staggeringly high that, like you and I, if we have a joint in the car, this guy will actually see some jail time. I'd like to see that. But hey, that's all I have for this particular video. I'm really going to try. I've been trying to get videos out a little more frequently. If you'd like to help to support the channel so that I can do that, you may do so in the description. And you can get a copy of Government Indicted as an ebook. You could do that directly with me. That is in the description. That's it for this particular video. Thanks for watching.